What's good, everyone? Welcome back to United Facts TV 876. And boy, this season has been lots of trials and tribulations for us United fans. I am going to analyze the season, analyze our most recent game, which is the Europa League finals. And just take this time, ladies and gentlemen, to subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend, and like the video. Let's go straight in our discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know how you guys feel. Just let me know how you feel below in the comments, because at this point, I don't know what to expect from my club. Now, I grew up in a time where the gigs were the good players, the Rooney's, Ronaldo's, the Carlos Tevez, Dimitar Berbatov, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic. I grew up in that time when United was at its dominance, right? And to see like a complete shift, a complete turn in what I'm seeing from Manchester United, it is for me depressing and also for me disappointing. Because, when we grew up, looking at these players who are hungry and these players who have that star quality and the desire to win big competitions, right? I'm seeing a completely different shift also in that mentality with our players. Since post Fergie, we have signed lots of superstar players, and Manchester United now has become the graveyard to superstars and also for up-and-coming talents. And for me, it's like Manchester United's environment is like a big sewage. When I say that, I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way, but I'm saying it like every person that comes there, or rather most players that comes to our club, they don't move forward in the right trajectory. It's always a stint of bad plays, then they may start playing good for a period and then back to bad play. I guess the players that we have, they lack that killer instinct, especially in that environment that is called Manchester United. Now, before we dive into the discussion of how the season transpired and that final, I've been hearing talks by fans and both critics. Well, fans are also critics too, but when I say critics, I'm referring to the immediate media. They are calling for Ruben Amorim to possibly be sacked. These discussions have already begun. And for me to be hearing that being said, it's unfair for Ruben Amorim for being in the job in just a few months to want a manager that didn't get a proper transfer window, a manager who implemented a new system, and a manager who came halfway through the season. For us as fans and even the critics who are advocating for him to be sacked, it's too early to call, because just as before the manager, before him in Ten Hag, I always said we have to be fair and we have to be logical and not emotive about stuff regarding how the club is run, because it's bigger than just a man coming in and making wine out of water, right? It has to be, he has to come in, he has to learn the tendencies of the players, learn the atmosphere of Manchester United, and learn what the fans demand also. It's not just coming in, implementing a play style and a system, and then it hits from the get-go. There are stuff that needs to be instilled, engraved in the players and the fellow staff, the other staff as well, for a successful environment. And For us to already be saying that we need Amorim to be sacked, it's harsh, right? It's harsh just because he's there just for a few months. Now, to really put, for me, to blame for this poor season, I would put this down to Ten Hag. And yes, for those who have been keeping up to date with me on this channel, I have always been an advocate for Ten Hag to keep his job. However, when analyzing the whole Ten Hag scenario, his recruitment was poor. Because out of all the previous managers, his players, to me, are the worst of them all. Like, the majority of his signings didn't work. The Anthony's, the Rasmus Højlund, Xerxes in the beginning, but for me, Xerxes grew on me. Nana. Lots of these players that came in under Ten Hag, and Casemiro is, to me, I think we should still keep him, but for the most part, Casemiro was an underwhelming player under Ten Hag, especially last season, and for the majority of this season also. So I'm saying that to say, and I didn't even mention the Anthony's as well, but I'm saying this to say, guys, the fact that these players with poor quality were recruited under Ten Hag, Amorim basically received all of these players in accumulation with the other antics with other players that were part of the United squad, like dealing with the Sancho situation post Ten Hag era, dealing with also Rashford, dealing with the attitude of Garnacho. I'm not bashing Garnacho. I think he's a player of potential, but he needs fine-tuning and guidance, which he doesn't seem to want to take, right? There's various things he had to deal with coming in. The whole atmosphere of Manchester United when Ruben Amorim came in was just in turmoil. So that also has to play with the job being difficult. Now that we've gotten that part of the discussion out the way, let's talk about what can be done. Because I can say anything under the sun, but United decides to go with their own plan, right? So, yes, we need a way to figure out how we're going to make investments in our first team squad, because we lost $100 million yesterday when we lost that cup finals, right? Therefore, we don't have the leverage and have the resource to get the players that we were linked with prior to this cup finals, right? The Gyökeres and the Cunhas and whoever else we were linked with. It's now a bigger task on our hands to receive those players. Now, it's back to where we were in last summer and in January. We now have to decide that we have to make some signings outwards, like sell lots of players, get lots of players off the books to get players in. That's now the strategy we have to go with, because the mere fact that we lost that game yesterday, all of these financial problems have now been an issue for us, Manchester United. Yeah, and this is the reality now. So, ladies and gentlemen, if Ineos decides to keep Amorim and you don't see much signings being made, and you see most of the squad this season is going to next season, don't expect a big improvement, because everyone else will make improvements. But trust me, if we don't devise a strategy to tackle the financial issues to invest in Amorim's squad, you're not going to see much better football next season. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's analyze the season. So, as you guys are aware, we started off with Ten Hag in the first quarter or the first half of the season, right? And we were pretty much very underwhelming. Lots of signings came in late. There was still some discrepancies as it relates to how Ten Hag wants the team to play and how substitutions were being implemented in games, various things that led to the poor start of the season. Hence, lots of players lost confidence, lots of players were in bad form. Lots of players got complacent because now there was a vast majority of players who didn't play well, and there was some who were just holding that poor and okay standard that we were saying, okay, these are the players we should be working with moving on to the season. Thereafter, Ten Hag was sacked, and everyone was saying to allow Ruud van Nistelrooy to just anchor the ship until the remainder of the season. And what our ownership decided to do was to appoint Ruben Amorim, which in my opinion is a very talented young coach. But he came into a big pot of sewage. And me as a fan who likes to take an objective approach in how things are to be done pertaining to my club, I said, well, I don't expect him to turn water into wine. And in saying so, I mean that I don't expect him to turn the reins completely, because when he took over, we still weren't in pole position for a top 4 placing. We were outside of the top 4, but we weren't as poor as how the season really ended. But we were poor. And he changed the system. So therefore, when we saw that shift, we should expect that there should be a time of adjustment, a time when we should improve, and a time when the players should now play and support this new manager. But, just as though when every team in the world changes a coach mid-season or whenever, there's always a bounce. There's always a burst of good performance. And we never received that. Amorim never received that burst of energy, that burst of good performance. And when I saw that, I immediately knew that Manchester United were in a bad place. They were in trouble. And when that observation for myself was made, I said, well, Amorim needs a miracle. He needs a way. He needs an escape plan. Something that will give him good reins and good grace for the fans and inevitably the board. But I kept saying, we keep trying to find this thing for Amorim. And then I came to another conclusion to say that maybe it's not Amorim, ladies and gentlemen. It's just simply the players. Because now that I am really objectively analyzing the situation, I'm seeing that if these players were of a specific quality, he would have gotten a new manager bounce. We would have seen good performances start coming in, right? But we didn't see that. So the players are just not good enough. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, what Manchester United needs is a wholesale change. Like, what we need to do is firstly identify some players that has that potential to be a part of whatever rebuild we're gonna do under Ruben Amorim. And these players, we can say, I would only, in my opinion, choose 3 players. And lots of you may not agree with my 3 players, but this is the players for me that right now, as it stands, they don't deserve to be sold or loaned. They deserve to be a part of whatever Ruben Amorim wants, right? So the first one I'm going to say is Amad Diallo, right? Now, Ahmad, if he plays as a 10, tremendous player. Plays as a wing back, tremendous player. So therefore, we see that Ahmad Diallo has what it takes under Ruben Amorim, or even if he's being played in a different system, if that's a solution in the future. Another one is Lenny Yoro. Now, Lenny Yoro, he started the season shaky, but as the season progressed, he also progressed in a positive way. We see why he was such a key signing for Ineos last summer window. He's good on the ball, he's quick, he puts in the tackles. For me, he has what it takes to become a world-class superstar in his position. And he's my second player that Manchester United needs to keep. The third one, which it's 50-50 in the fan base, is Bruno Fernandes. And I'm saying this to say, Bruno, as long as Bruno keeps his game simple and knows the time and the place to do what, Bruno is a key factor in our team. Whether he's playing as a number 10 in that front three in the front three, or he's playing as one of the central midfielders. Once he simplifies his game and makes good decisions, he's the moon. He's a star, the moon, the sun, and everything. He's a very good player when he keeps his game simple and makes good decisions. Right? Now, you guys may be saying, so what about other players like Mazraoui and so forth? No, I say yes. Those players, Mazraoui and possibly Xerxes, is other players who I would still keep in the squad. But as of now, I don't think they're untouchables in our squad, and De Ligt and so forth. I don't think those players are untouchables right now. I think given a next season or two, if nothing changes, they have to leave, right? So, yeah, those are three players who we should try and build that squad around, in my opinion. The solution, ladies and gentlemen, in order for us to be back where we need to be as a club, we need to make good business decisions, both on the players that we recruit and both on the backroom staff that we have. So the backroom staff has to make good decisions. We need to improve the recruitment, and we need to support Ruben Amorim. If Ruben Amorim was here a year plus and we finished 16th, I think he deserved the sacking. But he came here mid-season, or before, he came here basically mid-season. So we can't really say that he's the fall guy, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope from here on in things will change. I doubt it based on how things are looking. I hope it will change. And as such, let's see what happens in the next few weeks. The transfer window opens in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks from now. Let's see what business will be done, both incoming and outgoing. And let's hope that now that we only have the league to focus on and FA Cups, Carabao Cups, as long as we know that that's our priority next season and we do what we have to do, let's hope next season will be much better, ladies and gentlemen. So, that's my analysis of what happened this season and what happened in our FA Cup, in our Europa League finals. My apologies. So, subscribe to the channel. See you guys soon, and I'm out.